Everybody, happy Monday. I hope you're ready for a very high vibe author event. I'm Tony, I'm your host tonight and the founder of the Self Help Club, a community and platform all about celebrating self-help and personal growth and working on ourselves and our self-health. And this summer, our theme at the club is spiritual health. So tonight, to support our dive into all things cosmic, I'm delighted to be joined by the renowned healer, clairvoyant, crystal whisperer, energy and light worker, spiritual coach and meditation guide, Emma Lucy Knowles, who I'm going to call Em tonight. I've worked that out already. Em is here to introduce us to the power of crystals. So if you don't know anything about crystals, that's fine, you're in the right place. And we're going to be celebrating the launch of her brand new book, Crystals to Manifest. So this is a sneak peek because this book isn't out until August the 10th, I think. Em, is that right?
Yeah, exactly it. I was just thinking, is my title not the longest title in the world?
Oh yeah, it's brilliant though, but you need to put it all in. I'm going to unpack all of it, especially Crystal Whisperer, because I just think it's the best job title ever. But it's a beautiful book, and Emma's a beautiful soul. So thank you for being here, and thanks for the sneak peek. So welcome.
No, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you all so much for coming, especially if you're new to this or you're ready to add something more to your your arsenal. And we're ready for it.
Yeah, I think tonight is going to be I feel like there's lots of people who, well, why don't you let us know in the chat, guys, because as usual, your mics aren't on, but your cameras are on, and we're going to use the chat box to talk to each other. But let us know in the chat box, what's your crystal knowledge on this level of 1 to 10? If 1 was no clue, that's why I'm here, and 10 was I am a crystal whisperer. Why don't you put it in the box, and then Em can see like what we're working with. I think that's
Hi. Oh, I love this.
I think my score, I was just saying before we went live, would probably be like 2, because I do have a few crystals which I've been kind of like showing at the screen to Em, and but I don't know what to do with them. They're presents from lovely friends, so but we'll learn that you don't really need to know what you're doing to feel the power.
Absolutely.
So tonight you're going to be introducing us to the magic of crystals, as well as how to kind of choose them and use them to manifest some good stuff in different parts of our life. And then we're going to close, guys, with a short guided meditation, which is always a nice way to start the week, I think. So absolutely. Yeah, let us know in the chat box what we're up to, where you are, what your crystal knowledge is, and let us know how are you and where are you today?
I am really good, thank you. I am in London, and I've got another book coming out at the end of the year, so I'm just in the midst of doing the final edit on that one, whilst trying to keep my head in crystals at the moment, but I can do it. There's a crystal for that. I can calm myself down.
Is there a crystal for everything? Like I'll say, there's a self-help book for that, I'm sure.
Well, you said when I wrote my first book, so when I got my first book, I got offered the first book, and you should never turn these things down, I think, unless it feels really right. And the publisher came to me, which I think, it's quite a rare thing. They said, do you want to write this book about crystals? And this was like 5-6 years ago. And I've been doing energy work now I'm 40 in Feb, but I've been doing energy work now for 20 odd years. But it was always kind of on the side, because my kind of path into it was quite dramatic. I think it's the best way to sort of describe it, like the clairvoyancy, the connection where spirit it was kind of thrust upon me. But I don't come from a family where we celebrate that. We're from up north, and we're very much, we get on and we work and we do. So when your daughter's coming to you at 7 years old going, oh, I'm seeing all these crazy things, and they're just like, absolutely not, shut it down. That's when I fell into crystals, because I got I know a lot of people got really badly bullied at school, but I think what happened to me is that I was so sensitive. I just knew how everyone was feeling, which actually in an all-girls school is not a great thing, because you're like, are you all right? And I'm like, oh, stop asking if you're all right. That nice quality that you're trying to be just kind of gets sort of shrunk back, and then you feel all the heavy stuff. You feel the weight of the world a little bit louder, because you don't really know how to disassociate from it. So then you grow up feeling like, and I think lots of us do, we feel like all the pressure and the heavier stuff in life is ours, and we don't really tend to associate ourselves naturally with the positive stuff. That kind of seems to be the fleeting stuff. The natural narrative tends to be heavier or sadder, or there's something to work through. So for me, when I was at that age, not really knowing who I was with all this great big emotion, crystals came into my life because they came like my friends. And it helped me start to distinguish how different energies would feel to me. So you know how you have a friend that you'd call if you're feeling a bit sad, or you've got somebody that you're feeling like you need to get your confidence up, or you know you need a crystal to help you kind of get off your tits. Am I allowed to say that? I've just said it. And you need that kind of energy to
say what you like.
sort of go a little good stuff within reason. There's a crystal for everything, because they work beautifully to effectively, everything is energy, and they have the ability to influence the effect of and the flow of energy into our body. So, and our being, our energetic body and being. So if we're feeling really full of life and joy, you'll hear everyone talking about these amazing chakra systems that we have, the energetic body, these great big vortexes of energy that run along the body front and back, and they're working out like great big vortexes spinning wildly. And when we feel so aligned, each and every one of those vortexes are spinning at the same scale and the same diameter at the same strength. When life goes a bit left field, or someone takes from you or hurts you or pings you or whatever, your energy naturally starts to spin the other way, a bit like a turtle going back into its shell. So you hear lots of people go, I feel really unbalanced. Things like food now, diet, mood, general craziness of the life around us, each affect a different one of those energy centers. So it's kind of near impossible to be completely aligned at all time, unless you were a Buddhist monk, you know, like meditating for 48 hours, you're going to get like these moments of divine sort of wisdom and spark. So crystals have been popular for years, decades, eons. We can't actually trace back the starting origin, but we know like in Iceland, they found clear quartz, and we're like, oh, it's like ice, it's magic ice because it didn't melt. And then we'd kind of wear them on our breastplates. So energetically, there's always this sort of knowing that they were very protective, or you were given them as a talisman, and kings and queens would wear them kind of in their goblets and their crowns. And for a long time, there was this sort of disparity between it being for the kind of the very rich and the very few. And then there was this underground thing that started to build throughout our lives, where the amount of people I'd be like, or, you know, it's my secret guilty pleasure. And that's why I initially turned the book down, because when they were doing write a crystal, I was like, not publicly. I don't mind working with them, and I love them.
I don't want to be outed.
Yeah, I don't want to be thrust upon a kind of a witch's hook. But and then the book, they said, don't worry about it, fine, we'll do another book. And then the book came up 6 months later. They came back to me and said, the writer's pulled out. We've got a month to do it. Do you want to do it? And my intuition was just like, yeah, absolutely. And my gut was so strong. And channeled the book in 4 days and left my job within, it's nuts, right? Like, very lucky like that. And then I left my job, and I think I had about £350 in the bank or something. I was like, right, if this is the moment that we launch into this, then we're going to do it. And then it got published into like 11 different languages.
And that's your first book, this one, The Power of Crystal Healing.
Yes.
And obviously it went pretty well, because now we're celebrating book number 2 about crystals.
Right. Yeah,
and you're loud and proud about it now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was just more like not a confidence thing. I mean, I remember talking to a journalist years ago, and her saying to me, I'm really sorry, can you hear my dog crying in the background? I'm sorry, everyone, just to pause. She's not a big fat crystal. I'm just going to let her out. I'm very, very sorry.
Don't worry.
I thought, if I feel that, I'm back. Sorry,
at least
guys.
You're wearing trousers, because
yes,
you know sometimes on Zoom that doesn't happen.
Not so sorry. Yeah. So
loud and proud, crystal nerd, and
she was just saying to me, you know, it's mad. Like I spoke to you about it, and then I went home and talked to my gran about it, and she says she's 95 and she's been carrying a crystal in her bra for ages, and it's only when you sort of used to talk to people about it did it start kind of coming forth that this is something that's going on, that's happening underground. So for a long time people thought I was just having an emergence because of social media, or because Victoria Beckham's doing a collection, or people are using them in different ways. And I think what the age of the social did is it gave them a voice where people go, oh, that's accessible for me. And I think my very different approach is that you can be very prescriptive, and you can say, this crystal does this and this crystal does that. And I meet so many people going, oh, my friends bought me a rose quartz, but I've not got a boyfriend. And I'm like, well, we're also different. How we dress is so different, how we think so different, how we kind of energetically exchange and interact with each other so different. So why would one crystal just do that for everybody? Like, why would one star sign just fit? There's just all those different layers with even in your star chart. So it's about teaching people, going, how does that feel for you? And that's more important for me. It's kind of like, this is the overarching energy, but how does that connect with you? Because if you're looking to fall in love, yeah, rose quartz is great because it is about unconditional love. There's a reason that it's so popular on the planet. There's a reason there's so much of it, because as a world, we need more of love right now. But you might be in love that you're lacking confidence, or it might be in love that you're lacking trust. So we need to find more of a crystal that resonated with that vibration.
Yeah. So they're tools, it sounds like. And you've talked to me before about how what you want to do is give people tools and the knowledge around the tools. So it's kind of like, that's what we do with the books as well. It's like, this book isn't going to change your life, but if you use the lessons from it in kind of a conjunction with other things, then it will help, and it all kind of supports whatever change you're looking for. And it sounds like crystals are really the aim of using them, is to get that balance you were talking about earlier.
Completely. And I think because you can just carry them anywhere you go, so that they work, like I was saying to you, like you don't need to do too much. They work better if we give them a job. So if we think about how we're interacting with them, it's like when we used to be able to walk into the pub, or you go somewhere, you just know who you're drawn to, you know what your vibe is. And that's because there's a resonance sort of happening that's going, this is what my bat signal's saying. Now that works in the positive and the negative, because if your energy's in alignment and you're feeling great, you therefore attract those people who are on that wavelength. If something in your energy is kind of low, we try to be careful with words like low or heavy, but a heavier vibration is probably something that makes you feel a bit more sluggish. Yeah. And if something in your energy is a bit more sluggish, you're more likely to want to eat junk food, to kind of want to sleep, to therefore you start digesting energy that is of that resonance. So energetically, you can move around people who are not of your vibe anymore, and they kind of keep you in that space. So they are wonderful tools, because you can give them a job and say, right, I want to work with you to do X, Y, and Z. Or you can just go, do you know what? I used to work for a media company for a CEO, and I used to put my crystals all in front of my desk, and he'd be like, this is just a load of rubbish. And I'm fine with that, because it's not for everyone. I'm not here to force feed anything. Mm-hmm. But came in one morning and he was on a call really early, and he was like rubbing the crystal between his thumb, and he was on a really important call, but he was using a piece of Selenite, which is a blue crystal, and blue tends to resonate with the throat, so it's about communication. And I was like, see, he's using it, but he's using it more like a stress ball per se, and it's working for him in that way, rather than him being like, oh, here's a Selenite that's going to really help me on my call. So there's so many different ways we can interact with them too.
Yeah, I love that. And I love how you say in the book that there's some kind of energies that might not be the right energy as well. So like you just talked about certain people that we're drawn to, or situations, there's other people and situations we're kind of like drawn away from, or kind of like pushed away from.
We were such complex beings. I know when I'm doing healing work with people and someone comes and they go, I've really been working on myself. People are working so hard, but they're like, I'm still attracting that relationship. Is just the easiest, broadest to talk about, that says, I'm still attracting the guy that doesn't want me, that it's still not feeling good or great about. And I'll be like, somewhere in your auric field, somewhere within your energy is just this tiny little thumbprint that says, I've got all this energy to give. And when that person's energy crosses your energy, and their energy is like, I need to digest other people's energy to keep me going, your energy meets and it locks. And that's why some people get locked in what we'd call like a soulmate relationship, or a heavier relationship, because their energies are meeting each other, and but necessarily it might be healthier for one person than it is the other.
Wow, so much to learn.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're getting a good idea of crystals and what they can be used for. Do you have is there a beginners, if you had a beginners pack, what would be in it? Does that exist, or is that different for everyone?
No, I think it's important to start with. I think lots of people, when they were even chatting, saying, I've got a rose quartz. You cannot go wrong with rose quartz, because it's great for cell rejuvenation. It's all about unconditional love. It's that mother's love. It's that feeling of like, when I'm feeling a bit raw and a bit ready, that energy is so lovely. So working with that as a base tone energetically is beautiful. Tiger's eye is always in my kind of like go-to kit, because it's for confidence, it's for drive. It allows us to be very focused. And it helps us focus different energies in different situations. So it might be that for a meeting, you want to keep really focused, or you're trying to focus on your computer rather than focus on your phone. You can start to set the intention in very different ways. Citrine's another great one. It's the one that everyone gets because they're like, I want to make loads of money, and they're going to go and get a citrine. But actually what it's for flow. It's about an abundance of flow. So if you're looking for more love, more joy, more confidence. These are three great pieces to start pairing together, because they'll start to work to really, really kind of jazz each other up. And I think selenite is a great one. This is selenite here. It really helps us balance the light and dark within ourselves and in all our relationships. And that's also within kind of looking at what we like about ourselves and trying to make, or working towards making the things that we don't like about ourselves more lovable. Good within the bad.
Yeah, and that's just beautiful to look at as well, isn't it? But so from a total beginner's mind as well, is it holding these stones, or looking at them, or having them in the same room as you when you're kind of like thinking about these things, or setting intentions, or journaling?
Yeah. Really important to clean them when you get them. So start small. I'd never say get more than 3 at any one time, because you want to spend a couple of days with each, interacting and getting to know which one you like. So always clean them, because unfortunately it's not a regulated industry. So they're coming from some, terrible conditions often, which we can't kind of govern right now, but everyone's working towards doing. So you want to make sure that just as the crystal interacts with you, every hand it's touched has almost left a fingerprint. So we give them a bit of a cleanse up. So think about like washing your hair. You can shower them, you can bathe them. You'll hear lots of people talking about putting them under the moon, which is wonderful, because the moon, she pulls the water on the earth. So in an energetical sense, water is emotion. So she pulls the emotion from the crystals, and then you get to work with them. And it can be quite literally about making a ritual for yourself, lighting a candle, and really just sitting and thinking, what is it that I want to achieve? What is it I want to start feeling for myself? Or what is it I feel I need help with right now? And it's just that level of conversation, and having the crystal in your hand is enough to start aligning it, or what we call attuning it, to the vibration that you're seeking for yourself right now. And it works both ways. Remember, it's not just about what you're bringing in. In order to bring in, you have to make space within yourself. It's like emptying the wardrobe. We have to start pulling things off the hangers in order to make stuff and space for the new stuff to sit and settle. So there'll always be this kind of dichotomy within it. But I think with healing, sometimes people go through this, I really felt really buzzed up from it. But I should say as well, sometimes you can feel quite emotional from it, because the energy's got to come out almost the same way that it came in. So if you've been kind of stockpiling this emotion, and then all of a sudden this crystal just opens that space for it to move and to flow, it will pour out, but it's done gently and with love. And the crystal, you'll find, will really help you lead it out of your body the way that it needs to.
So it's like a support, really. Like you said earlier, like when you have your friend that you call for in certain situations, and people that you rely on. I really like that feeling. I'm going to ask you about intention. We're going to go into that in a minute, but someone's just asked, a few people have asked me, in the beginner's kit, can you just repeat what you mentioned, and maybe spell out the longer words?
Absolutely. So we've got the rose quartz,
which
is, we know rose, quartz family, really good for starting kits, because it's quite a popular one on the planet. I'd also say tiger's eye, so it's just like tiger and then eye, and it's a beautiful brown golden piece. It's like caramel. And then we did citrine, so Citrine, which is for the abundant. And then the selenite is Selenite. And with the selenite, don't get it wet, because when you start to wet, it becomes porous and it starts to break away. So that's the moony one, this lovely one here. This was actually a false clear once before, but they break, which we should talk about as well. When they break, they open so beautifully, because they're trying to get more facets for love and light to them.
Oh, that's gorgeous, but not necessarily what you want with your new crystal. How do we clean them then, just while we're talking about this?
So like I said, think about it. You don't have to go into a huge long ritual. You can, some people, that's why we use like the moons and the sun. So if the moon's full, it's a perfect time to do it. But you quite literally, if they're not porous, if they're not like the selenite, you can just bathe them in a bowl of water. You can put them in your sink, in your bath, or you can just run them under the sink. And then we're going to go on to the next element. So that will be the fire. So that will be the sun. So then we leave them in the sunlight, and that's what the crystal starts to charge with. It's like us sunbathing, right? So lay there, soak up all that good energy. And then when you're ready to use them, and then when you use them, you've got to think they're like sponges. So then we use the moon to kind of really release anything that you've been working on that's starting to pass through you back out into the universe.
Wonderful, thank you. This is practical and spiritual. Perfect combination, I feel. Okay, so we're talking about, now we're going on to about setting intention. You've mentioned that a few times. And I think, I mean, it's so important with any part of healing, isn't it? Or this kind of work and growth, it's setting the intention and getting clear on what you actually want from this tool or this experience. I think so important. In the book, you talk about kind of setting an intention to start with, and then 3 more steps of a process. And I'd love to go through those, because I think it's really useful for people to have an actual, I mean, I love a plan. I love like a 5-point plan for anything, even if it's spiritual healing. So if we could go through those 3 areas, which I think you can talk about them, if that's cool.
So I think the thing with manifesting is, again, I actually said to them, my publisher, I don't want to write about manifesting because it's become a bit of a buzzword and it's become a bit of a bandwagon that people are jumping on. There's some really phenomenal books that do manifestation perfectly. And then I was like, well, actually, the biggest step that I sometimes think we're missing is the energetic one, because a lot of manifestation here, people go, think about what you want and think about it really hard and put it on a mood board. But it's not thought, it's the feeling. We're manifesting each and every day. Every single thought we think, every energy we digest, it becomes part of the manifestation of self that we're creating. So how can I get from here to the fast car if I don't believe in myself that I firstly can have it, if I've still got limiting beliefs energetically that kind of hold me back in that space? So it's very important that, we have an intention, but we then use the crystals to clear our energy, to move anything out of any trauma, any grief, any old beliefs out of our system, to then also sit and think about what I really do want, rather than, when we're scrolling on ASOS or on online shopping, we're like, oh, we can have that, can have that, can have that. You've got to think about this long term, because when you're manifesting your life, you're going in a wider space, but we want everything here and want it now. So we sort of do a whole session and set on what is it that you actually want, and then we clear the way. So we work with connecting that next bit to spirit. So it's kind of the self work, and then it's okay, let's draw this towards spirit, because that's a really hard thing to kind of manifest in your mind if that's not necessarily your belief. And it doesn't have to be a spiritual practice. Like, I remember do you remember when Noel Edmonds did all that signography, and he sort of drew all his manifestations on his arm? It wasn't necessarily a spiritual practice for him, it was about a mindset practice. And even if you watch the Arnold Schwarzenegger documentary, he will tell you that he put pictures of the men that he wanted to be over his bed, and his mum was like really worried about him, because like, pictures of girls, but he's like, no, I am manifesting what I want to become. And it is very important to have those visual, but what he had was a really clear pathway of energy. And that's the bit that I sometimes think we miss, because people get very disheartened that if what they wanted doesn't arrive next day delivery, we kind of tend to give up on them. But we need to keep reassessing them, keep tuning in with ourselves each and every day, and like, I'm manifesting my reality right now. So having these steps is really important, rather than throw a few pictures on a wall and then kind of hope for the best.
So intention, we'll do that. That's what you're going to do basic meditation around at the end of our session. And so the other 3 steps, clear the way. Is that what you were just talking about then? Then kind of like getting energetically aligned and understanding that, I suppose, and then casting out and then calling in.
Yes, exactly that. So it's that 3-part step, because I know lots of people, when they get something that they've asked for, they've often forgotten that they asked for it. So then when they're kind of complaining about the next thing not happening, all right, did you spend that time really aligning yourself with, like enjoying the moment? When you've got a lovely meal and you just scoff it down. It's like, we don't let our energy savor sometimes that which we've been waiting for all that time.
And in the club, quite often we talk about where you think you want something, but what you want is the feeling that comes from that thing. So if it's a new house, if it's a new car, if it's even a new job, the feeling might be security, or the feeling might be validation, or whatever it is. And it sounds like a similar exactly process.
But you want to start feeling it now, because there's no point kind of working on what that is. Like, it's the feeling of everything is created in feeling before it comes into anything else.
And so do you have a manifestation practice?
It's all about patience with me. I think I try not to get too heavy on it. I don't sit there and go, every month I'm going to manifest. It's every morning. It's like, where's my energy at? It's almost like goal setting. It's like a kind of a little bit of a spiritual to-do list. But then what I do have is, like, you can get these whiteboard sheets of paper, and I write on them almost like a spiritual to-do list. There's almost the things that I'm saying to spirit I'd really like you to do. and I'll carry on doing my work and clearing out, and keep focusing on those goals as not just being kind of so far out there that they're unachievable, but every day working towards what I need to. So that's why I have meditation practice, but then I box, I swim, I do lots of different things to keep my energy in that shape, rather than just sort of sitting there thinking about it. It's about getting my energy into the way in which I want it to feel.
And then the other stuff follows, is the
Absolutely.
idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so there must be days then, it sounds like you know what to do to switch your energy up, basically. So if you wake up and you're feeling, if you have a low day, do you, like, when we talk about it's okay not to be okay, I understand that, but I'm very much about, but then how do we move forward? Is that what you would do? Or do you sit in feelings for a while and then decide to make some changes?
Yeah, I think the morning sometimes quite hard, because my whole day is spent in other people's energy. So when I wake up in the morning, sometimes I can feel a little bit like, when I'm not a teenager anymore, I'm not at that moment when you're like, oh, I'm going to bounce out of bed, and I have it sometimes. But I think your brain gets into this wonderful way of trying to keep you safe by keeping you locked in this feeling of don't move too far out of the structure. So I will practice Qigong like 6 a.m, and then I will sit in meditation and just be like, how am I feeling? But I'll never rush myself out. I've learned that feeling, like using crystals, using spiritual work isn't about rushing from one feeling to the next. It's about being able to sort of discern that I'm not my feelings, but I can look at them and understand why they're happening. And working with the crystals gives me the space to sort of separate that a little bit too. So I don't have to go, God, this is happening to me, and now I'm in a mad panic. It's about giving myself enough energetical space to sort of be able to look at it as a witness, bear witness to it. And still then I'll go through my day and I'll have those moments where I slip and you go, oh gosh, this is going wrong. And you have to just keep catching yourself. So by no means is it a space of where I'm like, oh, I'm in complete perfection and I'm, kind of in the most enlightened being. Like, I still forget because I'm still human. But then we're so driven these days, I think, by making sure some of the needs are met that aren't necessarily our own basic needs. And it's just a bit like manifesting. We push so far into what everyone else is doing, what we need to deliver, that we don't come back down to the smaller steps of what it is to kind of create our feeling each and every day.
Yeah. So it sounds a lot like you, kind of what I'm hearing is that you because you're very in tune with yourself and your feelings, you kind of like gauge how you're feeling, and so you might not have a necessarily routine or morning rituals are the same every day. You kind of you go by what's going on for you.
But I shift them up, because I used to be like, right, this every morning it's this and this, and then it's almost like falling into spiritual burnout, because the ego gets really smart. It goes, well, I know you're going to do that, so it's not going to help you today. So I kind of feel like I move it around. I can maybe have 3 things. So it'd be like Qigong, or I'm going to go boxing, or I'm going to meditate, or I'm just going to go and walk the dog. They're my things where I get that space. So it's really important that actually I don't just sort of say to myself, it's like walking under a ladder, I think. When I started to learn to teach Qigong, I was like, all right, I've got to do Qigong, teach myself. I've got to practice Qigong every morning, 6 o'clock, because if I don't, then something bad's going to happen. And I'm like, well, that's quite a dangerous place for your mind to go. I was able to see that, but I see in other people where they're like, right, if I don't go to the gym on these days, then I become a failure. And it's the same thing with your spiritual burnout. It's like, if I don't hit all these targets to enlighten, then something terrible is going to happen, or I'm a bad person. And we flip it on ourselves. The brain is fascinating. And these practices that should be really enlightening and soothing become very kind of, almost like a chore.
Yeah, that's such a brilliant point. Thank you for sharing that. Spiritual burnout. I know all the community are going to love that, because we talk about morning routines a lot and kind of how important routines are. But you're right. It's like, there's no point beating ourselves up about not doing our self-care practice properly, is there? It's like kind of undoes all the good.
Right, exactly. And also it's about kind of, I think when people get stressed about meditation, I'll always say to people, just sit, even with your crystal, like, the great thing of it, they're pulsing and they're vibrating. So they work like lenses. So we think about universal energy floating around up here, right? And we've got these energy sensors running through the body, but we've also got them in our hands. So that's when you touch, so you get that electric shock. We give someone gives a really good hug. It's the energy, the chi. If you're looking at Chinese medicine, your chi flows out from the kind of the points that are furthest away from you. So if you look at a crystal like a lens, so this is lemon chrysoprase, and it's great for, lemon calcite. It's great for focus and determination. So if universal energy is just moving through my energetic body, I'm using it through the breath each and every day, expanding the breath, expanding the energy and the life force within me. If I then put the crystal over one of the energy centers, as the energy is coming in and it's hitting that crystal, it's changing the frequency of the energy to that of focus and determination. So that energy starts then moving through the body, focus, determination, and it starts digging out anything in my body that's saying, I'm not, anything that does not align with that has to go. And that's why, like I said, healing, sometimes you can have 3 days where you feel a little bit up and down, a little bit emotional, a little bit unstable, because you're going through a process and a unlayering of stuff that you can't physically see, which is why we then work with the crystals to work as almost like energy stabilizers whilst you're making those changes. You know what it's like when you move house, when you move job, everything feels a little bit up in the air until you land back down in it. And it's no different in healing. Like, you've got to kind of elevate a little bit to let some of that gunk make its way out.
Yeah, technical term, gunk.
Yeah,
I love
gunk.
it. And again, patience, right? This is what you keep kind of referring to. I feel like maybe what I'm doing is sometimes a bit too pick and mixy. So I'll be like, oh, I'll do a crystal today, but I don't really know what I'm doing with it, and maybe I don't stick with it. So yeah, I think the idea of understanding something and using it and having a plan around it is good.
It's just put in a day where you're like Crystal Thursday. So it's like, okay, whatever, I'm just going to carry one every Thursday. And then what you start to do is you start to recognize the benefit between having one and not. Because what the other thing other people start to do is just, again, like the ladder syndrome. If they're like, I forgot my crystal today. Oh, something terrible's going to happen. I'm like, no. Because I used to study with a Cherokee teacher. He used to also supposed to be in the Secret Service. And 1 year I spent every Sunday in the woods with him. And we used to kind of walk around like gauging vibration and energy. And he was taught as a Cherokee teaching that you become the energy that the crystal gives. So you start to embody it. And when you embody it, it leaves you because you no longer need it. And then it goes on to the next person ready to find it. So these kind of like scary things that we put out there, oh, don't want to break it, don't want to lose it, they're actually all really positive signs that actually you're on the right path.
Wow, I love that. What's the weirdest thing you've done in the name of healing?
Do we really do? Okay. So I went to this incredible circle with lots of wonderful women, and everybody, we did this like a brain orgasm. So she taught you how to orgasm through breath out the brain. So, and you'd feel the experience of it in the body. And it was quite extraordinary.
Did it work?
It did. It really did. And I was like very scared because you had to write a letter to your, private parts and things like that. Like, I'm not sure if this is for me. But by that third day, I was like, actually, it was about that kind of liberating that inner goddess. And yeah, it was quite amazing to be able to let yourself go a little bit.
Brilliant. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's the best answer I've ever had to that question. and generally, I mean, you talked about it since you were very young that you had experiences that are quite intuitive, and crystals have been a big part of your life. But can anybody get into this stuff? Like, do we have to, like, I think quite a few of us in our community are kind of learning to get more in touch with our intuition, with our feelings, all that, or our emotions, that kind of thing. So is it something you're born with, or is it something we can practice and develop?
Everybody's got them using it in so many different ways. And some of the greatest kind of people I met, they use their intuition in so many different ways, but we're taught to untrust it. We're indoctrinated into that feeling from a very young age. That's one of my things that I kind of got annoyed with when people are like, oh, this worked for my friend, but it didn't for me. And some people are really good at sharing their experiences. And then some of us are like, well, it didn't work for me like that, so I'm going to give up on it. And actually, instead of it being like what works for someone else, so if someone's sort of recommending for a session, I'm like, just because that works for your friend, it might not just be what you need. So don't give up on it. Find a different way. That might not just be your crystal. So instead of going, right, I'm going to go and get those crystals she recommended, what are you drawn to? Because what's, as Rumi says, what you're seeking is seeking you, right? What energetically you're looking for, it's magnetizing back towards you the other way. So go into a shop or go on Etsy and look at the crystals and really kind of tune into them. Just like we're so good at deciding what we like by the way we look at it. So that's why crystals have been made so beautiful. So we can go, yeah, I like the look of that. I like the look of it. And that's not shallow. And we're reading energy all the time. And these things have been sent by Mother Earth to become these amazing tools to help us anchor the gift that we all have. And we just get quite competitive, unfortunately. I think people are like, oh, and some people are just really great at singing how good they are at things, but normally they're the most insecure and they don't really know. So never kind of be dissuaded by it. And we should be talking about it, sharing experience with crystals and sharing experience about how they felt. Like I'd say, even if you've never worked with it before, grab it, sleep with it under the pillow, because when you're going into that state of mind, like a meditative mindset, or having a bath even, you're going to get much more of a feel from them, rather than you sitting there and going, I'm doing this wrong, I'm doing this wrong. And that's just what the ego does. It just comes straight in and it just wants to block you from stepping into your brilliance. So it's just about taking time with it and almost trying to forget about it a little bit. Use it in some of the things you're already doing. Like I take it to boxing, I put it in my gym bra, I've got them in my handbag, you've got, in the car. Used to tuck them around my sister's room before she kind of knew what I was up to, because I knew that energy was gonna work and vibrate, and it does. So it's about making them work and use them. And if you just like the way they look, energetically they're doing something beautiful for you anyway, because they're raising your mood.
Because you're being drawn to them because it's something beautiful. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Can I ask you a few specific questions that people have asked in the chat? When you carry one, can it be in your handbag, or does it need to be close to your body, like in a pocket or in your bra, I suppose?
Yeah, it can be in your handbag. You've got to think that their energy travels. So they're like a little Wi-Fi box. So their energy is kind of vibrating and pulsing. If you put them in water, you really feel that sensation. So in your bag, just like your phone, when you hear it vibrate through the bag, through the material, the energy is no different. Like you'll still get that vibration. When you're working with them to start with, you almost want to keep them a bit closer so that you feel a bit more confident in it. So I think skin on skin's great, because you get more of that tactility and you get a closer vibration, you get a closer feeling of the sensation. Bra is always a winner. Pocket is great, but if you feel like I don't want to lose it, putting it in your handbags, it's going to work the same, because your aura is not just this. It's wide and wide and wide and wide, and houses wide. So you'll start to work them in a way in which you won't even need to leave your house with them. They will be working for you through intention from across the distance. Like energetically, I can work with people I've never met in Australia, and you'll be like, whoa, that's mental, because they're like, I felt like your hands in that space. But it does, when you start growing and moving through that and working with energy, it starts to sort of move beyond the limitation of what your mind tells you it is.
Wonderful. Stacey's asked, can you set multiple intentions for one crystal?
Good question. You can, but I think that's almost like overloading your workforce when you're starting. So if you've kind of got a general, this is what I want, then yes, absolutely, if that kind of falls under one remit. But I would say to start with, keep it really simple for yourself, because you might also start to forget what the intention was.
Yeah, and as you've, because this question was actually posed a little while ago, so as you've talked about, you practice with one crystal and kind of like you said, wear it close, keep doing things, and then you'll feel the difference. Yeah,
but if you want to kind of create an umbrella intention, which is I want to feel more joy, then every day be like, okay, I want to see more joy today, or then the next day maybe I want to feel more joy, I want to understand more about joy. You can keep it within that remit, you can add to it, as long as you're working within that parameter of what that vibration is that you're seeking.
Brilliant. I have a question. So this is The Untethered Soul is our book at the moment, which you know, and I think love also. We're halfway through as a group, and this book is, as I'm sure you know, but it's all about letting blockages go. So kind of releasing emotional pain, really. But so when you feel something, just let it go, which as everyone keeps asking in all of our meetups, but how? Like, how do we just let it go when someone is a dickhead? It's like, how do we do that? So is there a crystal for that?
Yeah, I think when we to let it go, I actually changed that language to let it be, because like letting go feels so final, and actually it almost feels like you're having your arm twisted into, oh, just let it go. It's become quite a flippant term, hasn't it? And I think it's about people sort of say forgiving it better. So we always come into a state of forgiveness in order to let it go means to not hold it so tightly in your face. So it's kind of like with a crystal, it'd be sort of going, okay, I know that this person is a dickhead. I can't change that. So what in my energy is making me feel the need to change that person? What in me energetically is triggering me? And there's a great crystal for that. It's called pink tourmaline. Pink tourmaline is a great irritation reliever. So is aquamarine. It's great for hay fever too. But energetically, those people are kind of clicking into you like this. And what you need to start doing is we need to start letting it go, start moving it out of your energy system. So it's about kind of going, all right, how can I make that space so then I can start to move away from that person rather than look it in the eye square every day and drive myself absolutely loco coco.
Yeah, so it's about you're not trying to change that other person or even change the situation because you can't. So it's doing the work on yourself to not get triggered.
Bouncing it back and go, them is my mirror. What is that showing? It's not saying you're a dickhead. What it's saying is that I no longer wish to have that kind of energy in my life. That energy irritates me, and that's what Spirit's saying. So instead of going, oh God, this is sent to try me and test me and squash me, it's about going, it's showing me that I am really clearly seeing that is something that frustrates me and that I can now move away from. So you should be proud of yourself that you're feeling the frustration, because it means that you've come up against this mighty feeling of, and this almighty step into change.
Yeah, it's a teachable moment. It's a gift, guys.
Right. No,
that dickhead in traffic is a gift.
Don't get frustrated with yourself for getting cross. Like even if we look at Chinese medicine, like that is fire. Being frustrated is fire, and fire creates change. So actually it's a wonderful catalyst. So we should never be like, I'm just on this one level and I'm trying really hard to kind of be really perfect. Lose your cool. If something triggers you, that's why we have all these gods and these goddesses that have these different faces and different crystals for different things, because it's how do I then channel that energy into something constructive rather than try and bury it. Yeah, I love that. I'm purchasing a bag full of pink tourmaline. Don't throw it at anybody though.
I love that reframe. That's brilliant. And then Caroline's asked a question, which I don't even know what this means, but you might. What does Emma think of the little boy who does crystal grids and says each crystal has a button? He holds the crystal to his ear and says the crystal talks to him. Do you know about that?
I do not. No, but I love that. But they do. Working with kids is great because, as Caroline says, like, that's what they're supposed to invoke us to doing, is to bring us back to that childhood spirit. Because I can lay out a table of crystals, and I did it at an event once in the Cotswolds, and the kids just ran at the table. They're picking them up and they're going, I feel this from it, I feel that, and I feel this. And then it's like they're showing their mum and their dad, and they get it, they feel it, but they feel it so purely that we almost go, oh, they must be kind of daydreaming or playing and making it up. But I genuinely feel that's the truth of it. A little kid working intuitively already. And like I can hear them, like they're no different to when you put the shell up against your ear from the sea. There is a vibration, but that's just used to be his superpower. That's phenomenal. But it is about getting us back to who we were before life happened.
Yeah. So as a child, you haven't had, like you say, it's almost like kind of like forced out of us, the intuitive side of us.
Absolutely. And I think that's the thing with it. Like you're 9 times out of 10 more likely to hear a child experiencing the interaction with the spirit or a ghost and be completely able to describe someone that's passed over, because then they have no fear of it.
Yeah. Any other tips for parents? Because I know we have parents on here.
Absolutely. I think they're a great way of being able to communicate with your kid too, because when we buy the crystals, you'll get an understanding of what they mean to you. So it's being able to understand where they're at energetically. I mean, I'm really close to my parents, and sometimes I still think my mum tries to say to me, this is how you're feeling and this is how you're being. And actually it's really helped us help me to communicate how I'm feeling, not based on how I'm told I should be feeling about a situation. And I think kids are so susceptible to them, and you can get like the jade rollers and the facial rollers that aren't just for the face, like rub them on your kids' feet, like where all the reflexology points are. They love them. Very soothing. And I think I work with so many people who are like, my kids want to take them into school because they want to protect their energy, and it gives them that, even if it's on a psychosomatic level or on a kind of, level where you just believe it's like, can't quite find the word, but it's that feeling of it just does the trick. Placebo effect. It's not for them, it's different, and it will help you. And I've worked with lots of kids. I'm like, okay, show me the colors that you like, and if they're picking more of the darker crystals, it's normally because they're kind of looking to hide or kind of tuck themselves away, or if they're looking at the brighter colors, it's like no different to just kind of doing painting with your kids, and you'll get a real clear expression of where they're at. And it's the same with the crystals.
Brilliant. And then just finally, for any pet parents on here, of which we are both, and I know there are lots of others, there is a there's a part of the book about crystals for pets. Amen. Which I was looking at last week for my dog Milo. So let's talk about crystals for pets and when we would use them.
Seriously, so my dog's a health hazard. Like, she's like mad, but it calms her down. So I will rub crystals on her belly just to soothe her, because they're so in tune with them, because obviously they can see the energy vibrating too. So great again to put in their dog bed. Really good for separation anxiety. So if there's that feeling of dogs, obviously they kind of smell your scent, and when your scent starts to die down, that's when they know that you're not there. But if you keep the energy, the crystals will fill the room with a vibration that will make them feel very safe. Cats love crystals, and actually you start working with them and you get your dog to go, can you pick me a crystal for me? And then just like drawn to whatever they're drawn towards, they're much more honest. So it will help you soothe them. Like, think about it just like the body with you. Like, if tummy's upset, you can lay it underneath their tummy. I worked a lot with a dog when it was passing over from cancer that it empathed from its parent, and we were constantly working on different crystals to put around the collar, which you get some really nice pieces on Etsy too, as a protection piece. And they're more likely to energetically, they do pick up more than us, because they're built that way. They're much more open. So crystals for pets, I definitely say like a black tourmaline or a smoky quartz, just to make sure that when someone's hugging them and they're crying, or someone in the house is kind of a little bit off, that they're not becoming the crystal for you to take on that heaviness, that we're keeping their energy nice and pure and clear at the same time.
Brilliant. I love that.
Yeah.
So there is a crystal for everything.
There is a crystal for everything.
Right then, we are at the end of our time almost, so we're going to go into our meditation soon. Guys, any more final questions? Then let us know in the chat quickly. David shared the links to Crystals to Manifest, which is Emma's new book, out August the 10th, and this one, the original, The Power of Crystal Healing. So hopefully, I mean, that must have given everyone a brilliant overview of what's involved. But the books are beautiful. They're just like, the photography is amazing, and what a nice present to give to someone, as well as just a way to start this whole process. So I'll say my goodbyes now, really, so that we can just kind of have the meditation and float off into Monday evening. I think that's probably the best thing to do.
Absolutely.
So thank you for being here. Thank you guys for being here.
Thanks for being so open-minded to it as well. I really love that.
Well, I just think everyone went at the beginning was like, I'm a 0, I'm a 1, I'm a crystal virgin, I'm ready to, but they're still here. So if you're still here, congratulations. And I feel like everyone will be logging on to Etsy very, very, very soon after the meditation.
Brilliant. Okay. Thank you so much.
I'm going to put myself on mute for now while you do this bit.
Brilliant. Okay, everyone. So you don't need a crystal for this. We're just going to tune in with the breath. Going to keep our palms face open, because when we're meditating, if we keep our palms face open, we're open to receiving. It's an act of being open to receiving. When we turn our palms the other way, we're closing our energy down. So if you're in a meeting, a really good tip, if someone's kind of draining your energy, or you're on a phone call, turn your palms face down, and it brings your energy back into yourself. So keeping your palms face open, I'm just going to invite you just to let your eyes very gently close. And anytime the mind wanders, just come back to the breath for me. And knowing that you have nowhere else to be, and this is just a very short moment in this time, in space. And with every breath, we're just sinking back deeper, deeper, and deeper. Just beginning to surrender into the moment with no force, no measure. And with every breath, I want you to, with intention, bring the breath and awareness into the heart as you inhale. And as you exhale, sending that energy down through the body, out through the feet, into the ground. Breathing in, bringing light and intention through the crown on the breath, into the heart, expanding. Exhaling, sending that energy down through the body, out through the feet, into the ground. And every breath just becomes about arriving into the moment, Every breath just tapping into your inner light, your inner fire. As you take that breath, that awareness down deep into the belly. And in the belly, in the solar plexus, at the center of the tummy, I want you to start to sense, to feel for a light that burns like a fire. And with every breath, you begin to add light and energy to that fire. And every breath expands that flame from deep within the belly. And every breath allows that light to flicker on the heart, burning through any disbelief, burning through any heavy vibrational energy, disconnecting from any energies no longer serving, that have weighed you down, weighed you heavy. And every breath, without thought, just adds more light to that flame. And every breath expands that energy up into the heart until that light overflows down, out through the arms, out towards the hands, the fingertips. And the hands and the fingertips, they're like the branches and the leaves on trees. They're how we reach out towards spirit and how spirit reaches back towards us. So with every breath, just tuning into sensing, feeling that very gentle vibration at the hands, the fingertips. And on your next inhalation, pulling that light from the hands, the fingertips, up into the heart. And as you exhale, allow that light to pour up and out through the top of your crown and pour over your body, blessings upon blessings. And just watching how your energy flows without force, without measure. Inhaling, drawing that light to wherever the body needs today. Be that the mind, the brain, the throat, the heart, wherever you feel that need for space and light, just allow it. As we come back to center into the heart. And often we don't know what we're ready to draw into our life. And often we don't feel brave enough to ask the heart the answer for it. But within this space, we allow that vibration to rise as if from nowhere into the heart and up through the throat into the mind. As we start just with the gentle mantra from the heart up into the mind of I am. Every inhale, I am. I am. I am worthy. I am brave. I'm fearless. I'm creating each and every moment as each and every moment need be created. I am releasing, I am freeing, I am aligning. However that I am is today for you, allow that intention to be made. Allow it to brew in your heart, warmed by the fire from the belly deep within. And just with focus, by pure allowing, pure breath, we move that intention up through the mind, out through the crown, and up to the universe. And as it moves up to the universe, I want you to bring your attention down towards your feet. Feel the body heavy on the earth. Feel that connection from body to spirit, from self to intention, to purely manifesting by purely being in each and every moment, in each and every breath. And at any time you bring awareness to heart, you feel that intention. And when anything feels out of alignment with that intention, you lovingly allow yourself to let it go, to let it be, to thank you for reminding you and it of just how brilliant you are. And just beginning to bring awareness back deep to the fire within. Affirming at heart, at mind, at belly, at center. That you are totally safe, totally protected. And then when you're ready, and only when you're ready, lifting awareness back up into the body, into the room. And very gently opening your eyes. Just take a moment, just have a big stretch. We can move so much energy just in a little bit of time, so make sure you have lots of water after, and your brain will try to digest that and everything we've talked about today by rationalizing it. If questions come a few days later, I'm here, please shout.
Thank you for that. That was delicious.
Thank you. That's all a little bit. Thank you, Rich.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having me and for being so blinking lovely.
Well, Emma Lucy Knowles, you're a delight. We're happy to have you.
Thank you very much, guys. Take care.
Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful week, and we'll catch up next Monday. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.